The war against free speech continues all around the Western world.
Scottish hate crime bill allow for jail sentences of up to 7 years to be imposed.
If you're lying about the vaccine, Mark Zuckerberg will hunt you down.
COVID misinformation scandal.
There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech.
There has been a rise in hate speech.
If you don't police your platform...
In a world of free speech, should we really think it should be illegal?
Much censorship so bad you can taste it. No, that's not true.
Freedom of information is a fundamental human right. We welcome the view of others. We seek a free flow of information across national boundaries and oceans. We are not afraid to entrust the American people with unpleasant facts, foreign ideas, alien philosophies, and competitive values. For a nation that is afraid to let its people judge the truth and falsehood in an open market is a nation that is afraid of its people.
Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive.
We've got to do a better job of getting across that America is free. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of enterprise, and freedom is special and rare. It's fragile. It needs production.
It's the Bill of Rights that earned America the reputation as the land of liberty. The framers didn't write the First Amendment to protect convenient or desirable speech. They wrote it to protect the kind of speech that nobody wants to hear. They wrote it to protect insults. They wrote it to protect misinformation and disinformation and malinformation and even lies. All of those are protected by the First Amendment. There were no exceptions. The framers wrote the Constitution for hard times. A government that has the capacity to silence its critics has license for any kind of atrocity. It was always the first step down on the slippery slope toward tyranny and totalitarianism.
And live from Otterbein University, this is the CNN New York Times Democratic presidential debate.
When I called on Twitter to suspend Donald Trump's account, that you did not agree, and I would urge you to join me, because here we have Donald Trump, who has 65 million Twitter followers, to openly intimidate witnesses. And he and his account should be taken down. Twitter should be held accountable and shut down that site. It is a matter of safety and corporate accountability.
The President of the United States has had his Twitter account permanently suspended.
A lifetime ban.
And Donald Trump has clearly violated the terms of use, and there should be a consequence for that.
President Biden leveled an extraordinary charge against Facebook, accusing the social media giant and other platforms of, in his words, quote, killing people for allowing coronavirus misinformation to spread.
What's your message to platforms like Facebook?
They're killing people.
Look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated.
Well, people are out there giving misinformation. Anyone listening to it is getting hurt by it. It's killing people. It's bad information.
Is there any concern that things you are trying to block or have taken down might someday turn out to be...
We don't take anything down. We don't block anything. There is information that is leading to people not taking the vaccine, and people are dying as a result.
If you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable.
CEO of the social media giant Meta revealing that his company censored some of its content around the COVID-19 pandemic. Mark Zuckerberg says his teams didn't want to, but they were under serious pressure from the Biden administration.
He now believes it is wrong, knowing what he now knows. And in this letter, he says senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content.
I encourage everyone to go read this letter. He says, look, they came to us, they said do this and this and that, and we were uncomfortable with some of it, but we eventually went along with it, and that was a big mistake because what they were saying has not stood up to the test of time on the COVID front and on the Hunter Biden front.
If speech is constrained in a fundamental way, you just can't expect people to make the right decision or an informed decision.
I don't recall any part of the United States Constitution where there's an exemption for pandemics. In fact, there's not one of the amendments of the Bill of Rights as a preamble that says, except when officials choose to declare a public health emergency. They all say very simply, the government shall not infringe on these rights no matter what. If the government can take them away at will, then they're not rights at all. They're really just privileges that are granted or revoked by an authority.
A proposed Canadian law would allow judges to imprison you for life, but not over something you did. It's what you say. But really, life imprisonment for hate speech? In America, you don't even get that for murder. The law would also empower judges to put you under house arrest if they believe you will commit a crime. Prime Minister Trudeau supports the measure, understandable as an oppressed person of color.
These new laws, which came into force yesterday under the Scottish hate crime bill, allow for jail sentences of up to 7 years to be imposed on those convicted of, quote, stirring up hatred against protected groups.
Just remind me again why I'm being arrested.
Right, so another hot topic in the Western world is hate speech laws, and many people fear that they are de facto blasphemy laws. This is playing out in Scotland at the moment. There were more than 8,000 complaints in just the first week that these laws have been enacted. And of course, you can make an anonymous complaint to the police, and the police have promised they will follow up every single complaint. Well, Caleb, they're now saying that 8,000 in 1 week, if this trajectory continues...
You have been committed for sentence, having pleaded guilty to an offence of publishing written material which is threatening, abusive or insulting.
He had already brought in the Hate Crime Act that he himself had championed as Justice Minister, and which left the police committed to investigating whether J.K. Rowling and others were criminals for expressing opinions on the immutability of biological sex. Mr. Yousaf became mired in the culture wars and turned Scotland into an Orwellian land of thought crimes.
You know, this is Scotland right now, but you'd have to be a dill to think this is not going to come to the rest of the world.
So because you won't endorse transgenderism, you know why you've come to arrest my son.
You're arresting him because he won't endorse
I'm standing here outside Mountjoy Prison, and I've been told that I've been released. I've been here for 400 days.
Is free speech under threat in the UK? With the rise of so-called non-crime hate incidents, arrests over grossly offensive memes, and the government's online safety bill threatening to clamp down on social media posts, can you really speak your mind in 21st century Britain?
They came to me because I tweeted about gender-critical content. I'd famously retweeted what they described as a limerick. It wasn't a limerick, it was a piece of feminist doggerel.
Is there such a thing as hate speech? Yes, obviously. People say terrible things, reprehensible things, quasi-criminal things even, all the time. Brutal, and some of them cause a lot of trouble. So the idea that there's hateful speech, it's like, yeah, okay, that's self-evident, no problem. Well, let's regulate it. Okay, fair enough, because it's hateful. Maybe we would rather that there wasn't any of it. Okay, no problem. Who defines hate? Well, we'll worry about that later. It's like, no, you won't. That's actually the problem. Here's the answer to who defines hate. Those people that you would least want to have define it. That will be the inevitable consequence of the legislation. Because sensible people won't have anything to do with that. Like, people who are power mad will gravitate to that domain to make an ethical case to exercise their controlling power over the language of other people.
And freedom of speech only is relevant when people you don't like say things you don't like. Otherwise, it has no meaning.
There is no time when we look back at history and we say that the people who were censoring speech were the good guys.